Welcome to Blue Monday with me, Les, Rodger and Dave. A bit of housekeeping to start. If you're listening on a podcast, please leave us a rating and a comment. If you're on YouTube, please do like, subscribe and comment. And however you heard about us, please do share with everyone you know. Right, lads, Fulham. Bit of a tepid first half. Goal from Mykolenko changed the complexion of things just on half-time. A bit like it did with us against Ipswich. But then the Toffees probably surprised us all and stepped it up again in the second half. To record a win against Fulham, who we've not beaten in 7 attempts. So it was a pretty good win against the odds. And I also found out that when Mykolenko scores, the Toffees don't get beat. So there's a nice stat for you as well.
That was his 4th of the season as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we scored against Leicester, that volley away when we won 2-1.
Oh, no, I was talking about this season he scored 4.
He scored 3 this season.
Oh, has he? Is it 3? Is that 4 in his Everton career?
Oh, yeah, 4 in his career. Oh, no, that's his first of this season. He scored 2 last season.
And then we also always win when there's a new pope, by the way.
There is that as well.
Apparently. Is that our sort of Aaron Ramsey kind of thing where something happens, but it's not actually somebody dying?
Yeah. So I
suppose it is if the Pope passed away. So
I said it was a surprise win, but maybe on the balance of play it wasn't really, because we should have seen this coming. Rodger, it was nice though, wasn't it? It was good to see them sort of take the game to Fulham, be positive and get the win.
The second half was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The corner from Dwight McNeil is a thing of beauty, as is the header from the goal machine that is Michael Keane. You could argue the other 2 goals, it's a massive deflection for the Mykolenko sort of half-hit shot. And you could argue the keeper should do better with Beto's goal. But, we were on the counter. We were playing well. We seemed to have confidence. Alcaraz was running the show. And Fulham, what was it? I think you said on post-match, Fulham have dropped 25 points from winning position. 28. God almighty. Talk about...
There's a few sides, Rodger, isn't it? There's a few sides that have started to absolutely bottle it when they've got some European football potential.
Yeah, they just can't. And Bournemouth, one of them, and Brentford coming on strong, but Bournemouth and Fulham definitely falling away. But yeah, it's a good performance. It's a ground that we don't normally do well at. It's a ground the fans like to go to, especially when it's sunny down by the River Thames. And so yeah, it's a good day, but it's one game. It's 2 wins in 11, and this is Blue Monday for a reason. So we're not going to dwell too long on the positives, are we? We're not going to get carried away, because apparently everyone needs a new contract now, and Beto's a £50 million striker who's going to take us into Europe. It was a great win, of course it was. Let's not mess about. It's a good win. I think Moyes needed it, to be honest with you, because who knows what will happen, on Sunday? Who even cares what's going to happen with the game itself? And Newcastle away doesn't look like a fixture we can get much out of, given that they're going for Europe. So I think Moyes needed it, and I think a number of the players needed to show that they still gave a shit and they didn't have their flip-flops on. So credit to them all. Starting lineup was horrific, but what do we know? The end result is all that counts, and very impressive and a deserved victory. So yeah, we go on from there.
Yeah, just for context on Fulham there, that 28 points would put them second if they'd held on to that. If they'd have picked up half of the 28 points, they'd be 4th. So it's incredible to lose that many points, and it shows the difference that can make if you've got a team that doesn't bottle it, like we've done. We said last week, didn't we, the points we've dropped from 2-0 up. If we could pick up the maximum points from those games, we're probably looking at the European spots now. We're probably looking to that. So those margins are quite fine, Dave. But it was nice to get that 3-1 cushion, wasn't it? Like Rodger said, the keeper maybe should have done better with Beto's goal, and we discussed this on post-match. I think the fact that he's hit it early has really taken the keeper by surprise, and he's not had a chance to set himself. But it was nice to get that 3-1 cushion. We never looked like throwing it, did we? I mean, it was a rare thing for me, sort of getting towards the end of the game, thinking, "Yeah, we've won this." It was nice, wasn't it? It was good.
Yeah, and a rarity as well. When you think about the amount of goals we've scored this season, it was actually quite open, wasn't it? Creating chances, and I mean, they played openly as well. It was good to see the throwback to Marco Silva playing like that as well, because you're never going to manage a club that actually puts 10 men behind the ball when they've gone 1-0 up. I mean, I think it was nailed on. There was going to be another goal in the match. I didn't think it'd be us, but I felt like that he'd be the type of manager who'd be happy to hold on to 1-0. He's not like that at all, is he? When that is sort of our forte when we're playing games. And interesting that Beto scored his goal, and by his goal in inverted commas, I mean that exact finish once again. This time it was a little bit further out, wasn't it? It was just outside the 18-yard box. Took it early. I think Leno needs absolutely dropped for that, because that is the Beto shot. He doesn't do any other shot. He does that shot. So if you're a Fulham fan, he should be absolutely fumed that he hasn't done his homework there. Either that or he's just being crap. One of the things that I thought was quite interesting, I don't know if you guys caught up on this or had a little bit of a laugh with it, was that when Mykolenko scores, obviously deflects in, so he just about gets it included. It's his goal. Decore runs away like that, hand up, pointing in the air, and I thought, he's trying to claim that himself. He is actually trying to claim that. If you listen to the BBC commentary, so I can't remember who it was who commentated on it, was saying, that's it, Decore scored. And then it was like, it shows you the replay, and you could see why it was confused that he did, because he was standing right next to the guy who hit. And then I thought, the way he runs away celebrating, I thought, surely not. But I wouldn't put it past Decore, given what he said on the Ben Foster podcast, that he probably thought, I can probably get away with claiming this one. I'll probably put an extra few grand on what I think I'm going to get. I know we'll probably touch on to this, but I don't think he's going to get a nice reception at any point soon, is he? But in terms of the game there, really good header from Keane. I know we'll touch upon the referee. Looked desperate, absolutely desperate to disallow that one and give, not the referee, VAR. It was desperate to give Fulham a penalty at the end as well. And I thought loads of good performances there. I thought it's great to see McNeil back to what he can do. And I think he's got a bit of confidence. He's got a bit of momentum given how much he's been out. And you've got Alcaraz as well, who is firmly in the must-buy category for me. And interesting that we didn't have Ndiaye on the pitch. So dare I say there's a bit of squad depth there if we keep hold of some of these lads that we don't want to get rid of. And I suppose when you look at stuff like that, you start thinking, well, does it actually help us a little bit, the fact that we've got a load of contracts coming towards the end, and then you can score to pick and choose who you want to keep, rather than, well, we need to let go of this lad. This lad's not going to play for us anymore, but we can't sell them because they've got like 3 years left. This is a time, dare I say it, where we can properly sort this out. We can properly look at a completely different Everton when we start at Bramley-Moore. And I'll pose this question to most: how many players that we don't sorry, I want to word this a different way. When we're at Bramley-Moore, how many new faces do you think will start that game with all being fit and well and things like that? Because you've got a lot fighting for places here. It's good to see a few of them actually wanting to get a contract. And yeah, I feel as if that sort of performance is one that we'll look back on last season thinking, that's what I want to see us do, particularly away from home, obviously, but I want to see us play the way in which we did against Fulham.
Yeah, I think, like you say, Alcaraz was key to that, wasn't he? I think so. And Ndiaye and McNeil came on 61 for Harrison and Decore. I think that's when Alcaraz pushed in the middle, and then McNeil and Ndiaye out wide. Like we said before, Ndiaye and Alcaraz in particular can swap positions and sort of change around. So can McNeil to a degree. But Rodger, I think that's definitely where the game changed, wasn't it? And you could see, for all Decore talking himself about, how he shouldn't have to take a pay cut, which is, that's his prerogative to say that. And, no one ever wants to take a pay cut. But realistically, we look a much better side, don't we, with Alcaraz sort of pulling the strings down the middle there. Someone who's good on the ball, can pick a pass out and, doesn't just close down and get in maybe decent scoring positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Those two players that came on, McNeil and Ndiaye, are both good on the ball and can take a player on and can generally pass it accurately. Those are deficiencies in the games of both Decore and Harrison, apart from Harrison's first touch. And his second touch more than makes up for his first touch normally. So, yeah, a 3 off of 1 is a good way of playing, or as is a 4-3-3. I mean, I still think that there's flexibility, and you need that in this day and age. And just one big man up top, without any support and no source of crosses, you're not really going to create many chances, are you?
No, not at all. And I think I think we've seen the best of Beto. I hate saying that. Probably when he has played with Alcaraz. So against Fulham, really good second half. Against Palace, really good. So it's like there's a very, very specific way of playing Beto, isn't it? And playing to his strengths. That if we don't play to it, that's when he looks completely lost. But like again at the weekend, if we've got players feeding that through ball to him, sort of buzzing around him and giving him support, he just looks much better. And it's got the question going again, hasn't it? He's a player who we could maybe cash in on in the summer because he's still got a transfer value because he's still contracted to us. Unlike Calvert-Lewin, who's out of contract, so we can't make money on him. So the club could be looking at him thinking, well, maybe we'll keep him, cash in on Beto. I know I flip flop with this every week, but I'm starting to think that would be a mistake because of Beto's what he gives to the team as opposed to what Calvert-Lewin gives. Where are you on that, Dave? It's one a flip flop between, but I just think you can't argue with his goal scoring this season.
Yeah, there's been many times where I've sat there thinking, what are the plus points in keeping him on, or could we go and get enough money that we might well need to go and buy somebody else in there? And probably lean towards the former at the bit, not just because he went and scored his goal, but because I feel as if the things that go on in and around him, and actually you can fix them than what you would think you needed when you've got a 6'5" striker there. So my point being that we're generally quite crap at throwing the ball into the box. Obviously set pieces notwithstanding, but in terms of when we're on the ball, when we're trying to attack, you think of Harrison there. I mean, I just had nightmares in my mind when you think about Harrison trying to cross a ball in, and you feel like Michalenko's not perfect at doing that by any means. But that when you look at the side, if you're the opponent looking ahead of a game, you're thinking, well, you need to have two big defenders marking Beto. He's not that player. He's certainly not that player, and I think that probably missed the boat with it a little bit too often this season. But playing to his strengths is things that we haven't done that often. And I feel as if when we have, he's gone and scored. To his credit, as he scored, I think he scored one header, didn't he? And that was against Fulham in the last minute to get the equaliser. I think that was the only time he scored a header.
Yeah.
Other times though,
no header against Ipswich.
Oh, that of course.
Oh,
it was,
yeah.
Ipswich header the other day. It was a really good header. Yeah. And I think you can almost spot when sides we play haven't done the homework against them, because they're happy to sort of step up. They're happy to not play as deep as you probably might do against the striker that likes to head the ball a lot, because he's quick, and I will maintain that he's quick, and that in itself sort of makes you look at Calvert-Lewin. I think there's another facet to his game that we're not really going to miss. That he's the kind of striker that you want that's able to be really quick and work on the half turn and all that sort of thing. The various parts of Calvert-Lewin seem to be falling by the wayside for me in terms of what we need to go and replace him, which I think is encouraging. And I know it's very easy to say it because he hasn't played. I think he's played half a game or something like that since Moyes has been back, or a couple of late substitute appearances. But the fact that we've been good, we've become a safe Premier League side, 40 plus points without Calvert-Lewin. So when you look at that, you think, well, the pressure's off to keep him. I understand that people will be frustrated by the fact we're not going to get anything for him when, let's face it, he could become the striker that we thought we had, or the striker that we had a couple of years ago. I think that's inevitable, though, isn't it? You do that with every player that go. You think, well,
yeah,
look at Iwobi. Iwobi's a perfect example. I think he's an essential key player for Fulham, and he did so many. There were so many matches where he did that sort of thing in starts now and again for us. But look what happens when he's gone elsewhere and been really good. I mean, I think that's just a natural thing that happens, isn't it, when you get rid of players? So yeah, I think I'm putting Beto as keep right now, because I don't foresee us going and getting, let's say, 3 new strikers.
Yeah.
I think we'll maybe get 2, one on loan and go and buy one. But Beto, yeah, he's a squad player. Has as awful as he generally looks. He scored double figures now, isn't he? He scored 10.
I think he's 10 in all competitions, 8 in the league.
He's
You
the
wouldn't expect
first,
that.
isn't he the first player since Richarlison to get 10 goals?
I mean that's
That's
it.
what I've seen on a couple
I
of
think just
places.
That's
Since
embarrassing, really,
Richarlison
though. Isn't it?
21, 22, he's the first player. And I think that must be 10 in the league, surely. Is it 10 league goals?
no, it's 8. I think 1,
Is it?
3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 8 in the league.
Okay.
Just before we
And
move on,
goal against Doncaster as well. Didn't he always
Yeah.
score against Doncaster?
always good. He's always good for a goal against Donny. Right, before we move on to the rest of the squad, I've just got up sort of Beto stats here. So it's interesting to note he scored 1 goal under Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
But the most minutes he got was 67 against Man United when we got inexplicably beat 4-0 away. He was probably averaging about 15 minutes a game coming on at the end, and he got 1 goal. Now, since Moyes has been in, he's got a lot of 90 minutes under his belt, or a lot of, at least getting around 80 minutes. And he scored 8 goals. So it shows that, like, Moyes has seen something there. And he's thought he knows what he can do with this striker, and he needs time on the pitch, which it's a cliche and it's an obvious thing to say, the more minutes on the pitch, the more likely you are to score. But that goes hand in hand with the stat that he's the 4th top scorer in the league since Moyes took over in January.
Yeah.
And I think Moyes has just got it right with him, hasn't he?
I think he has. Yeah, it's extraordinary. That was amazing. Only Isak and Salah with 10 each and Mateta with 9 have scored more than Beto with 7 since Moyes came in January. It's an amazing stat. Do we keep him? Depends if there's what's the bid and who's it from. I was thinking about this and Moyes getting the best out of him. And does he have something of the Mikel Antonio about him? A slightly ungainly striker who's quick and with a through ball and one-on-one with the keeper it's pretty decent. I was never really convinced that Mikel Antonio was a striker, but he scored plenty of goals for West Ham under Moyes.
Yeah.
And stats don't lie, do they? That's a fine return. A Premier League striker getting around double figures. You need more goals in the squad. Probably he has. Probably he's pushed himself ahead of. I don't think you can keep DCL and him. Really, can you? I mean, neither of them is going to be our first choice striker. Really, are they? So probably But if Leeds come along with 25 million, I don't know.
I suppose if we could break even on him, it feels a bit like. But then could we go out and get a 10 goal a season striker for the money we get in? Because that's what we're looking at. You can forget like your 20 goal a season striker, even maybe your 15. I think where we're operating, we're looking at 10. Really, aren't we? Somebody can do that.
But that is where you're putting your faith on the recruitment side of things, isn't it? That is where you're thinking, well, do we give these fellas, carte blanche to go and do what they want with the money that we're going to get in? I would suggest no. I think that needs to be a cautious approach, despite the fact that it's probably going to be Moyes who is got the coffers there to make the decisions that he wants to with players coming in. I'd stay on the side of caution in terms of getting rid, certainly of both of them, in Calvert-Lewin and Beto. I'd be astonished if it's Beto that goes and Calvert-Lewin stays. I'd be surprised if they both. It's probably going to be better, in my opinion. It's probably going to be Beto who stays. And I don't think that is particularly a bad thing as what we've thought for a long time as well, which is to do him a hell of a lot of credit there. But I don't know whether you guys saw Moyes' post-match interview on Match of the Day when he's speaking about Beto, and this isn't verbatim, but this is certainly what I took from what he said. When he was like, basically, if he was like 19 years old, he'd be looking at a real prospect. But he's not 19 years old. I'm sure he said something along those lines, or that was certainly in my mind when I heard him talk, because I remember laughing thinking about that. But the good thing about Moyes, and a key part of him as Everton manager, generally where else he's been, is getting the best out of players that you look at and think they're not good enough. You think of that first season when he came to us. I mean, that was a relegation side that we had when he came in, and we could have gone down. And there were several other times when it could have happened. Yet he was able to get that extra little bit out of players that you look at and think they're not a Premier League quality. I think Neto probably fits that category there. And lo and behold, he's gone and got a good amount from him, a decent return. And if it wasn't him, and I mean that in how he looks, in terms of this sort of gangly figure when he's on the ball, if he could control it like he does, but always seems to find a way to keep Everton on the positive front foot. If he wasn't like that, but you take that away from knowing what he looks like and how he plays. What he looks like is the wrong term, of course, but the way in which he plays, the way in which his game is, which is generally looks pretty useless, let's be honest. But you just had that return given to you on a piece of paper. You'd be like, you go and have a look at that striker, I'd take that striker. You just go in blind faith on a Premier League goal scorer. That stat that Rodger read out there, I think's incredible, really. I mean, it's almost like you have to do a double take to think that that's actually real. The more goals than 3 players have, and he scored more than him since Moyes come back in. That is astonishing.
It's the argument. It's the Moneyball argument. Sorry, Dave. It's the Moneyball argument versus the eye test argument, isn't it? And Brentford and other teams have built it around the sort of Moneyball, the stats, and whatever. And so Beto's stats are great, but he doesn't pass the eye test. But what do you go with? Do you go with the stats, or do you say, he doesn't look like he could trap a bag of cement?
Well, it's a really interesting debate, this, because I feel as if when you do watch him, and how many of us, most of the fans, most of Goodison will look at thinking, how on earth have we ended up with paying 30 million quid for this fella? And there's all sorts of different narratives around him, I think, that are going to make that decision for you. But I'm sort of trying to convince myself enough, and I think I have done, that you've got somebody who's positive effect, positive impact at our club. And how many goals have we scored? We've only scored more goals than about 3 or 4 sides, haven't we, in the entire league?
Yeah.
His goals have been priceless, really.
Mm-hmm.
Given that we've got to a position of safety. Am I someone who looks and think you've got to give him a bit of loyalty and think you keep him? Absolutely not. No, I think if someone come in with 20 million quid for him, I'd say sell him. The connection with Leeds and whatnot. But I think the overall comment on all of it with Beto is, can we go and get somebody who gives us a better return than he does? Now, I think that goes to my mind and thinking you've probably got to pay a similar amount, maybe more, to get those sort of numbers from elsewhere, regardless of how well they play, regardless of how good they are. Those numbers, specifically those numbers there, you've said there rightly, go back to that fact that Rodger said there, with just three other Premier League strikers, top quality strikers, lest we forget, are the only ones who've scored more goals than him in the second half of a Premier League season. 30 million quid, you think, and probably have to pay a bit more to get that sort of level of striker with those numbers. So I think it's an interesting one, really, and he's a bit Marmitey now, isn't he?
Yeah, just as a quick aside, people turning their nose up with Thomas Souček. He scored 9 this season. So from midfield. So there you go. Let's go through the squad.
Isn't he about 40? Well, he certainly looks 45 years old.
30.
Yeah, they're perfect at his prime.
30. I honestly, I would genuinely be all over him in the summer if we could. I think.
Yeah, but the problem is, the more successful he's been, the more the Potter will want him to stay.
Yeah, he's got the Moyes pull, hasn't he? He'd go and play for Moyes again, definitely. Right, let's do it then. We'll quickly go through the squad and then we'll have a little bit more of a conversation about them. So, Beto, what we saying? I'm going to say keep.
Yeah, keep.
Unless we get a bid of over 25 million, keep.
Okay. Interesting one, Mangala. Would you have him back? I think I would.
I wouldn't on the basis of him being a little bit injury prone. Let's go and find someone else.
Right.
Because loan spaces are I certainly wouldn't sign him, Les. And loan spaces are at a premium. So, I mean, the Rodger argument is you fill up a loan space with a croc. That's a bit of a waste.
Yeah. Go on then, Rodger.
No.
Dave?
No.
He's broken.
Calvert-Lewin.
Get rid.
Yeah, I think so. I can see why the club might and possibly will keep him, but I'd say, get rid.
There's so many things.
Don't get rid. I mean, just don't offer him a new contract. I mean,
I was about to say that. Like, I don't think there's a one-worded answer to Calvert-Lewin. If
that's because he's double-barreled, Dave.
There you go, mate. Yeah, you could always. He sounds like two players. We'll have Calvert and we'll have Lewin. I'm gonna go keep.
Keep.
Yeah.
Lindstrom.
Softy, you big softy.
I know. I've bottled it. Yeah.
Lindstrom.
No, thank you.
Release.
No.
Contentious one here. Jack Harrison.
Yeah.
Can he be the drinks guy? Can he bring the drinks on it? And there's
Buy him for 8 million.
Well, you know for a fact he's going back to Leeds and scoring against us though. So
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe if we have Leeds before the end of the transfer window, just keep him until then. But no, I absolutely get rid. I think he's the top of the list of, I'd send him back before the final game against Southampton if we could.
Alcaraz.
Oh, you have to buy him 15 million. You have to buy him.
Easy keep bargain. Yeah.
I mean, I'm encouraged that Moyes has now started him, and
yes.
I think it's like we said, he didn't want to be compelled to buy him, but now he's starting him, so it won't trigger it, but it won't trigger it all to the obligation, but we'll buy. I think we have to buy him.
Yeah.
Can he not reach the threshold with that because there's only 2 games left to buy him?
I don't think anyone knows what the threshold is, but now that Moyes has started in the last 2 games and didn't start him, but always brought him on like 60, 65 minutes. I read that as Moyes not wanting his hand to be forced, but I think he's shown more than enough for 15 million, as you said. In this market, he's a bargain at that price. And a young Argentinian midfielder, every team needs one.
Yeah. I agree. Decore.
Can I just go back on it? Just go back on Harrison there. Have you guys actually accepted the fact that he's going to be playing at Goodison Park in the final game of our 130-odd year football club at our precious ground? Jack Harrison is going to be playing on that in the last game.
He's going to score the winner.
I feel like going up right now. What? Go on.
My words. He's going to score the winner, and it's going to be a worldie. It's going to be like the Bournemouth goal. He's going to score one of them.
Is he going to bow us out? Is he going to bow us out at Goodison, and we'll be like, you've got to give him a contract just because he did that?
Like you had the final player to score at Goodison. It's going to be that little Armstrong biff, isn't it, from Southampton? Nailed on. Decore, what we saying?
No, it's going to be a Michael Keane own goal, isn't it? That's what it's.
Oh God, yeah.
Corey, from what he said there, I know we'll probably touch upon it before we finish if we've got time. No, and I think he's pissed on his chips as well. Really, I think. Yeah. Even when he scored against Forest, I think he's sort of like, he's almost. It looks to me like he's pretty overly desperate to say to everyone, "Look what I can still do. I deserve a new contract." And when he's come out and said that about his salary and potentially saying didn't he mention Van Dijk and Salah as well or something? Like, come out with all sorts of nonsense. I mean, if you were undecided by that point and you think that, top wages comes at a premium, which it still will do, or you still expect it to, despite the fact we've got new owners over the summer, then absolutely not. No, 32 years old. Yes, he probably is going to live off that goal against Bournemouth and the odd couple that he scored for us that have been important, but no.
And the fight with Curtis Jones.
Exactly. I mean, well, did you know, the interesting thing about this, and I don't want to slate any of our fans really, but those sorts of things go a long way with many. Those sort of aspects of a player who goes and does that. For instance, you'll probably see that with Alcaraz, because he got involved in that as well, didn't he, against the Shite? And probably stereotyping South American players there, but he looks like he's up for getting involved if there's any sort of controversy on a pitch there. It will go a long way for certain fans.
I think with that is, so he did it to Anthony Gordon as well, didn't he, when Pickford saved the penalty? He was right in his face. And I do think that goes a long way, because it's kind of it's a little bit of a fan manifestation on the pitch, isn't it? It's kind of like, that's what I'd love to do as well. So
I'd do that. Yeah, I'd do that.
I can see that, but I think football wise, and the fact that he'd want to be on the same contract, he should be no more than a bit par played if we did sign him. So that's a no from me. Rodger?
The thing with that, before Rodger answers, the thing with that also gets me is, who would he go to? Who's going to pay him anything like we currently have him on before his contract ends? He's not going to get 120k. Wherever he goes to Saudi. Nobody is going to pay that. And I would think, we mention them a lot, but a club like Leeds maybe, or I think probably Sheffield United will find out, won't we? They're not going to get knocked out by Bristol City with a 3-0 lead after the first leg. It could well be them who come up. They take someone like him as well. It's Calvert-Lewin going back to Sheffield.
Oh, that's a shout.
Yeah, but he's not going to go
Getting the Tom Davis band back together again there.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, there's some fantastic social media coverage there, won't there, for Sheffield United to earn a few quid from Instagram. But with Decore there, I don't know. I don't go off on the tangent here with him, but I've no idea where he ends up. I would also add the fact that he's coming out crying now and saying all these different things that are outrageous because nobody's approached him elsewhere. So that probably tells people a lot of things about him.
Yeah, it's a shout. Rog, keeping?
No. He's too old, and you know, he served a purpose. He scored some important goals, and thanks very much. Shake his hand, and I don't think he needs a tifo, but he'll probably get one. No, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, here's the contentious one for me, Michael Keane.
Well, I mean, you know, you go on this now, and we're going to rediscover this, and I'd like to be stepped to one side here in answering this question because I got absolutely slated with Damon. But it's a good time to go back to him because he went and scored a goal, and he played okay. And I think he's just given so much. He come out actually. I don't know if you've seen his quotes. I was reading them this morning there, how much he loves the club, and I don't know. Yeah, it's the sort of thing that most players have come out and say about it. But I actually have a level of belief when I hear Michael Keane say that because he's been given a dog's life quite a lot, hasn't he, since he's been in us? Let's face it. For what is he, 8 years now, which is quite incredible. Given that I think at one point or another, every single Everton fan wouldn't have wanted him at the football club, but he's managed to hang on the coattails of others that have come in, or mostly the fact that we've been crap and not had too many who've dismissed him completely, meaning that he won't get on a pitch to score a goal. But I would keep him, and this is based on the massive asterisk next to his name that Branthwaite is probably going to go, in my opinion, and you need 4 centre-backs.
Yeah.
Save your money.
I think I'm inclined to agree with that again, you know. Rog?
How many players come out and say they don't love the club?
That's it. Yeah, I mean, I hinted towards that as well as being on the joking side of it. It's what everyone says, isn't it? We say that, you know.
Gordon did he?
It's the easy thing to say, isn't it? It's the easy win.
Nick Barmby, yeah.
Calvert-Lewin won't say it. I bet you Calvert-Lewin won't say it. He'll do a Trent. You imagine him doing a Trent video saying, "I've been at this club since I was 17 years old.
I started as a right wing back.
But there's a time to say goodbye."
We're going to come on to that in a minute.
Look, I would not keep Michael Keane.
Right.
I thank him for his service. He's got a great finish. He scored some lovely goals with his head and his right foot. But
his left.
If you can get the delivery right, as McNeil can, and hopefully as others can, that was on a plate. He finished it beautifully, but there's no reason why a Jake O'Brien or a Branthwaite or an incoming centre-back can't finish those goals. And if the recruitment team can't go and find a squad centre-back who's slightly better than Michael Keane with potential, then I'd be very surprised. But I wouldn't be surprised because I don't really know about the recruitment team's capabilities. However, I think it's fair for us to point out, in acknowledgement to the great John Blainsy Blaine, that Angus Kinnear was at the game on Saturday, and we now have a chief executive officer. So there you go. He started his job. The club haven't told us, obviously. That would be far too much to ask for the club to tell us that the man who we've appointed is actually at his desk talking about signings and squad contracts with Moyes. But Mr. Kinnear is in place. So thank God for that.
The new page of the book opens, with him there. Just on Keane then. It's funny, we've had like a general, like almost 5 minutes speaking about Michael Keane, and we didn't really talk about his defensive capability or lacks. We're talking about goals he scored, and I think that probably most listeners to this will say, yeah, why have you danced outside and around it? Get rid of Michael Keane because he's a generally shit defender.
Give him 6 months out, right? To train as a striker, put him in as a striker. That's all I'm saying.
He'll go back to Burnley in a heartbeat. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, Dice will have a job soon, Moni. Let's face it. Dice
He'll
will
be
get a
back at
job,
Burnley. Yeah,
and he'll be back with him. Yeah,
and they'll change the name of that pub back to the Royal Dice because it's currently the Parker's Arms, apparently.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
really?
they've changed
Have
the
you
name.
honestly done that?
The Parker's Arms. So what is it? Is it just like 3 jackets or something all on at the same time?
And as
Well, I was going to say,
I'm not sure.
Well, it must be interesting, wasn't it? Because Dice's image there is basically like Henry VIII, isn't it? That was on that. What's Scott Parker's look on it now? Is it like Prince Harry or something?
It could well be, actually. I like that. Prince Harry. Or Prince Harry.
Yeah, no, let's not go there.
Right, moving on. Just a Ghana gay. Keep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's probably the top of my list in players to keep. Don't care how old he is. I don't care how old that lad is, as much as we probably contradicted myself about Decore being too old to get any better. I mean, he's Benjamin Button, isn't he? Just a Ghana guy. Fantastic. Been my player of the season by a mile. And he's
better than Pickford.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if I'm going
outfield player, okay.
Strictly going outfield player here, Rodger, because I've just decided that we are. But
just
yeah, go
on that Pickford save. It was a little bit Tim Howard against Southampton for me.
No,
because he was well out of position, wasn't he? It was a great save, but he should never have been in that position.
Shut up, Les. Nobody. Listen, no one on this Monday, no one on a podcast that I talk about says something positive about that man.
It's not positive. It's also just a little bit more negative. Unusual for me.
So you're telling me if you're telling me it's not positive because you are then therefore saying that, well, that he should have saved it.
That's Tim Howard save was a great save, but he should never have had to make it in the first place.
Well, anyway, forget him. Listen, I don't even know. You trail of thoughts gone in and falling apart. What did we say? Oh yeah, Ghana. Yeah, got to keep him. He's the glue that holds the midfield together. And I have no problem whatsoever, even when he goes to the age of 40 odd, he just seems that kind of player. You know, a lesser version of Pirlo or something like that, or Modric. Yeah, he's the Everton version who just does really, really well, despite the fact that he's going to be a pensioner when he retires.
Rog, keep.
Oh yeah, no question.
Yeah. Joe Virginia.
Yes, need a backup.
I mean, isn't there anyone? Didn't you speak about 2 decent up and coming keepers the other week, Les?
Yeah, there are 2 in the background, and I just think Virginia's 25 now, and I said last time I think it's probably best for him to move on and try and get a career somewhere, and then we bring through 2 of the younger lads maybe. But
isn't it like the Irish lad that at Liverpool? He's been fair play to him. He's been screaming saying
he's in the same position, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's been goalkeeper.
Yeah, literally.
Very good. He's had more game time, Kelleher, for sure.
Yeah.
He's got cup winners medals.
He's got cup finals under his belt, hasn't he?
Yeah,
not going to get that at Everton, mate. Right, 3 to go. Oh, what are you saying about Joe Virginia, Rog? Keep.
Yeah, I'd keep him.
Dave? Oh yeah,
I quite like him actually. I think
he's decent. He's a good keeper.
Yeah. I mean, it's a by the by sort of thing, isn't it? Really, despite the fact of inevitably after saying that the Pickford will do his ACL in, and we'll need him. He'll do his ACL in the first game of Bramley Moore, and we'll probably need a decent goalkeeper. We've still got Begovic there. Is Begovic on the list?
Begovic. Let's do Begovic then. Begovic.
No, thank you.
Time to go, isn't it?
Absolute gent. I say it all the time. What a gent. Lovely man.
He's a great fella.
Brilliant. Yeah, he's absolutely
massive as well.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is.
He is a big man. Ashley Young, keep him.
Just for the guaranteed bookings. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I don't want to be here come the last deadline day, and we still have to rely upon Ashley Young as our right back. I'll go as far as saying that. And if we do, then
he can play left back as well.
That's my thought. I think he can cover 2 positions for the last 10 minutes of games. Keep him on.
I mean, we'll have what? Is he 40 yet, or is he 39?
Leave it with me. I'll have a look now.
36, 42. 36 waist, 42 chest.
39. He's 40 in July.
Wow.
So
in his year group, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's only going to get a year, isn't he? If he stays on, so we're just about not in danger of having a 41-year-old at right back. But yeah, given the current climate and circumstances, I'll say yeah, a token yes. Given that it's a position that is probably a little bit further down the list in terms of priorities.
And I think as well, if we're probably going to get rid of Nathan Patterson, which I think we will, it looks like he's done. Yeah, it's going to be cover up for grabs there, isn't it? Finally, then, speaking of right backs, Seamus Coleman.
Keep him.
Keep him.
Yeah, and this becomes all the more complicated, doesn't it, as well? I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, the obvious focus on a right back is Seamus, given everything. Don't need to speak too much about Seamus Coleman and his affiliation with the club and us. But if you're sort of treating him with we need him as a footballer. I hate to say this, but as a player, no.
Yeah, that's what I am. I just don't think he's got it in him to play.
How many? Well, whether he's got it in him or whether he's not, he's simply not going to get a game, is he? Moyes has made that perfectly clear. The one thing I would say is, like you've said, if Patterson does go, and you don't look at that as a priority for getting a right back in ahead of everything else that we need, then he's probably back up to Aston. Dare to say, I mean, can you imagine this? You've got, what will he be, 37?
Yeah.
Seamus will be 37 and Ashley Young 40. Can you imagine if that's just our right back option? If it's just those two? With all due respect to them.
The thing, I think my thing is he's played 4 times this season.
He's been injured though. He's been injured a lot.
That's what I mean, and I'm just not sure he's going to get over those injury problems. I think the thing with Ashley Young is he very rarely gets injured, so he's always available for that cover. I think with Coleman, he's come on and he's had to go off, and he always seems to sort of break down when he's played. So I just don't know if he's got it in him to play anymore. Sadly,
to move away from the detachment that he is, the obvious detachment he is very much the same as Baines was. Although Baines called it a day when he was still at the relative height of his powers. Well, maybe not to that. That's probably.
No, I know what you mean. It felt a bit early, didn't it?
Baines could play. I wouldn't have a problem with Leighton Baines doing 20 odd games for Everton, even beyond his last season. But with Seamus there, I think you have to. If they were both fit, would he still get in at right back ahead of Ashley Young? I don't think so. So I'm going on the premise that we will get a right back in, and probably not, but maybe keep Patterson. So then you've got him third on the list as he is now. But if we go into a season and you've got Ashley Young and Seamus strictly in a playing capacity before anyone jumps on me back, that's going into a season when you're thinking that needs to be addressed as much as everything else, really. I go back to saying that right back slot is a lot further down the line than other positions.
Yeah, I think for me it just comes down to the fitness. To be honest, because like I said, Ashley Young just never seems to get injured, and he's always available. And just on the right back thing, I think there's definitely a case to be made, isn't there, to just keep Jake O'Brien there.
Well, I mean, and that just the knock-on effect to everything we've spoken about with Branthwaite and getting a centre half in, and the Michael Keane thing that gets thrown into the pot when you're talking about if you've got to play Jake O'Brien at a full-back position.
Yeah.
I know it's great to have that sort of something in your locker that you're able to do that if you need to, but I want Jake O'Brien as one of our starting centre-backs.
It's what makes this exercise so difficult, isn't it, Rod? Because there's so many moving parts. You can't say, we'll keep him, because then something could happen with him, and then it's like, it's difficult, isn't it?
Well, some of them in isolation are pretty straightforward. The Lindstroms and the Harrisons and maybe even the Doucourés are very straightforward. But I mean, I'm the least sentimental person, as you would all know. But I would keep Seamus just for his presence around. This is a huge transition, leaving Goodison Park, going to Bramley Moor, and we need a period of. I know with 12, 13 players that we're going to have to switch in and out. So that's not good for stability. But if you can keep a constant figure of Seamus around the place, training standards, discipline, I think he's worth his weight in gold. And unlike Doucouré, he's not going to be after £100,000 a week or something, is he?
Yeah.
I think he has a future and a role to play in a sort of play a coachy type role within the Moyes entourage. I do think that, because I think he's got a lot to offer, and I would maybe there's some, I suppose, serendipity about him ending his Everton time in the last ever game at Goodison, but I'd quite like him to be there when we go to Bramley-Moore. So yeah, that's why.
Like you said, but you're not the most sentimental amongst us.
The man after my own heart, isn't he? I bang that word out every single show we do.
To sort of like put a question at you through Alice Rod, do you think we do get a little bit, as a fan base, a little bit overly sentimental? Because, even just doing that little exercise, then I'm like, I do really like Michael Keane. Let's just keep him. And it's like, all the like basically underlying stats apart from his goals say get rid, because he's calamitous in defence.
Yeah.
And then you brought up the comparison with like Liverpool booing Alexander-Arnold, which I think FSG are getting away with murder there. I think all that blame's getting landed on the player when it's the club's responsibility to tie them down or sell them. They've known this contract situation's coming to a head. You either tie that player down, or if there's 2 years left and he's a massive asset, and your players have actually got form for this, especially going to Real Madrid, you sell them.
Of course they do. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is on the club, and I think to boo him, it's a bit mad. But anyway, I'm not in their shoes. I don't know. So, that is their prerogative. But do you think we are a little bit sentimental as a whole?
You're asking two of the.
You're asking the wrong person. Yes,
two of the people this question. You could not have asked that, Les. He's definitely woke up. He's definitely woke up there and didn't complete his notes from last night, didn't you? To ask this question.
Of course, we're too sentimental, and that's why Bill Kenwright pulled on our heartstrings for years and years and years. Do you know what I found? I was thinking about this morning. I bought a season ticket again for the final time. It wasn't the last season that I had it, but I bought it in Koeman's first season in 16-17, right? I just phoned up and bought a season ticket. And it was great. Had it for 3-4 years, I think, on the top balcony, and then just the travelling up and down got a bit too much, so I gave it back. The last 10 years of Everton Football Club have been the worst, you could argue, right? The worst. We've had 3 or 4 relegation battles, 2 last day escapes, whatever. Absolute dog shit football. We've been a laughing stock. And all of us, and yet, in that period of time, we have, how many are on the season ticket waiting list? There was no waiting list in 2016. I just phoned up and bought a season ticket, right? Yeah. And the fans have been doing coach greets and displays, and the fan base has never been stronger, never ever been stronger, never been louder, never been prouder. And the club in the last 10 years has delivered less than it's ever delivered. So are we sentimental? You fucking bet we are, because that's all we've got. Well, that's all we've got. These people across the park are booing a player who's won a European Cup. Just one, has he won? He's winning his second league title.
He's won the lot.
Yeah. He's won the lot. He's absolutely fantastic. I can't stand the guy, but he's a great footballer. And he's, Real Madrid only buy the best, and he will fit in there perfectly. He's an absolutely magnificent footballer, and he's getting booed by his own fans. I don't understand it, and I do understand it, because they are not sentimental, and we are sentimental. And we're too sentimental, and we're a bit too soft. That's in our DNA, our memories, and Bayern Munich 40 years ago, and we've got the best supporters. We have the best supporters, right? We have the most loyal supporters. That's all we've got. The squad's not good enough. Standards aren't high enough. And Kenwright played on the sentimental community, all of that great stuff. Other clubs do things in their community, so do we. But at the end of the day, we have not produced enough good football. And in a period of really, really dreadful football, we've got season ticket waiting lists. And okay, we're going to Bramley-Moore, but that was, Bramley-Moore wasn't happening immediately, was it? The fans have never been sold out every home game, sold out every away game. Magnificent, loyal fan base who deserve so much better. So we're a bit too sentimental, yes. And they're, you guys quite hard, in analytical, and you're saying keep Michael Keane, and you're saying keep Calvert-Lewin, and you're saying Beto could be the answer. because we want good things, don't we? And one
Yeah.
win away at Fulham, and we're going to win the lot because we get carried away. I mean, football fans do. We're all, we're bipolar, aren't we? It's shit, it's brilliant, it's shit, it's brilliant. Spin the coin, which is it going to be this week? But are we too sentimental? 1,000,000%. And in the week leading up to the end of Goodison, it's just going to be overloaded, isn't it? It's going to be,
Yeah.
Well, pick up on that to finish. Go ahead, Dave.
The point you've just made there, Rodger, about Bill. Can you imagine the extreme length that it'd be this last week at Goodison? What we'd be doing at that club if Bill was still about? Bless him.
Well, I think he'd have it better organised, by the way. I think he'd have a little bit better organised than that. These sort of last minute, don't come if you haven't got a ticket and only hang around for an hour, and there might be a bit of a sing-song after the game. He'd have really made a great big pageant.
It would have been theatre.
Totally. Coronation Street Live, wouldn't it?
Betty Turpin singing the national anthem. Yeah,
on Sunday night.
A hologram of Betty Turpin.
Everton too sentimental. Absolutely, they are. And just to look like a complete idiot, the announcement, which I've banged on about with you two for the last few weeks, is that you can get your seat for £90. And do take this into account. You can buy multiple amounts of your season ticket. So can somebody please tell me that have they got someone at, I don't know, B&Q making these on demand? Because the only reason it should be 90 quid is if that it's your actual seat that you've been sat in for donkey's years. And the fans certainly far older than the three of us, not to put too fine a point on it, who've been at that club, yet they've still gone and pay for it anyway. And somebody they can get more than one. Now, I understand the fact that you can get one for, do you know what, my brother who lives in Australia or whatever, I'd like to give him the seat. I sort of get that. But the fact that you could get as many as 10 of them, I don't know how they can market that as being your season ticket seat.
And in the park end, you don't get the back with it, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, there's been something about that, hasn't there? Yeah,
and that's where the number is. So,
and as much as we're taking the piss, people take the piss out of us for having wooden seats. I have never been happier to have a wooden seat because that will. It is, it is as much as we said there about the sentiment thing. It is the thing they do really well, aside from the fact that you've got to go and pay a few quid for it or more quid in this extent. Because I've got the thing behind me there, when you get all the badges and all that. And I've been like, I really want to get that because you add it to your season ticket package or whatever it is. I've got that. But to sort of give it an example, it's sat there gathering dust in that.
Oh, shit, that's what mine's doing.
Yeah. So I've no idea where that's going to go. Or, it's just there or something when I'm old enough to say to any youngsters in the family, oh, look at this. We used to be fantastic 200 years ago. Hopefully.
So I remember when we were in the Premier League, now we're in the
remember when there was something called the Premier League. You see that Super League every weekend. There's something called the Premier League there back in the day. I'll show you. I'll prove it to you.
Just to round this off,
we once got a draw against Liverpool at home in the last minute. We don't play them anymore.
You played Liverpool? What happened there? How did that work? Was it a friendly?
It very rarely worked, to be honest. Just to round this off, then there's obviously the added plot twist that the women's team might be playing at Goodison now. So the club are actually going to need those seats, aren't they? You've ripped the seats out, you're just going to have to replace them. So that could be another factor in it. But there was a little bit of, I don't know, to and fro from people saying, I don't think it's a good idea. I think, it was the men's team ground. It should maybe change name, not be Goodison Park anymore. It'll be sad to see it sort of dismantled and rebuilt to a smaller spec or whatever. I don't really think that matters. I think, putting the women's team in there and growing that side of the club, I think that's a no-brainer for me. Do it. As I said, it does take a little bit of the poignancy of Sunday away because ultimately we're still going to be able to go and watch football, still going to be able to go and watch Everton play at Goodison Park. But I think it's a no-brainer. It's also got that little sort of PSR twist as well, hasn't it? Where we're just going to do what Chelsea did potentially. So yeah, I don't see any issue with it. I think it's the right thing to do. What do you think, Rog?
I agree with you at one level. My problem, as always, with this football club is the absolute shit communication.
Yeah.
So just tell us what you're doing. Right? Don't tell us the week before the final game at Goodison that it's not actually the final game at Goodison, just tell us. I can see a reason to do it, and I can see both sides of the argument. I've heard people saying, "Oh, they'll knock down the stands and we'll just have the park end." That's not really a football ground, is it? It's got one stand.
No,
I don't see how that would work. Obviously, and also the under-21s aren't going to be playing at Hague Avenue and Southport anymore, are they? So the under-21s and the women's team play at Goodison. Why not? Why not? So keep Goodison alive and well as a football ground. But it does change Sunday. I mean, it changes it completely. Yeah. It's not the last ever football match at Goodison Park. So just be honest and tell us what you're doing. Maybe they don't know and they haven't decided, which is why they haven't told us. Maybe they'll wait till after the event. I don't know. I don't have any problem with the women's team continuing to play at Goodison Park, but I just wish they'd tell us what the hell's going on. Maybe now with our new CEO in place, I mean, he's been in his job at his desk maybe for an hour and a half now. You'd hope he would have made these decisions.
The pile of papers. I think the under-21s might be playing at Walton Hall Park. I think that might be the plan.
Oh, okay. So they'll go there, and the women's team
and then the women
go to
Goodison. Yeah. Dave, where are you on this?
Yeah, I think. I mean, we talk about sentimentality, and that seems to be the general theme that we've spoken about in the second half of today's show. Would I want Goodison to be no more because Sunday is the final? Part of me says yes. I don't want to see Goodison in any lesser sort of glory than the old lady is right now. Having said that, I'm a big fan of the WSL and women's football and how it's progressing. So if that is something that they're going to go down that avenue, then absolutely. What will look difficult is that I would imagine they will make Goodison smaller, which that'd be a hard thing to take, wouldn't it?
Get rid of that main stand straight away. It's horrible.
I look at Highbury. Highbury's like flats now, isn't it? I mean,
totally, yeah.
Probably. So, I mean, you take that.
The entrance hall, the fascia is like listed and what have you. With the marble hall, but it's flats. Absolutely, people live there.
But I would pose that question to everyone and get in touch. When we were given the new stadium and then what would happen with the Goodison legacy, it was going to be a community-based hub with a couple. I remember distinctly. I've got the images somewhere in my emails where they were going to have three blocks of flats, and they all pointed in the direction of the three clubs, the three stadiums that we built. I'm not too sure what's happened with that one there. So I do think it's a difficult one to sort of to say, because I think if you sort of go down the way of saying no, I don't want anybody else at Goodison. Goodison's mine. I don't want Goodison anywhere near anybody else touching Goodison. Then you will get many fans of the women's team, myself included, who'd be like, well, you're simply throwing them to one side. You're simply not respecting them enough, because they should get as much of an impact as we can give them in a positive sense. So, yeah, that is where I make that exception in terms of Goodison being Goodison with that sentimentality, and I would put the women's team there, absolutely would. How it works and how they sort of break it down, I'm not too sure. Because look, you go down County Road and look at Goodison, and it was half the shape it was. I mean, that's hard for many of us to take, isn't it? So if with Goodison finish, it's probably interesting to do a poll to this, the club itself. Obviously it won't, and like Rodger says there, the lack of communication sort of front and centre of everything, isn't it? But with the women's team, I think it's a good idea in theory, and I'd like it to be one that's done efficiently. I'm not too sure the club have that level of capability, nor do I think you can get it in a fix that'll be happy, that'll have everybody happy about it.
Yeah, it is. I think it is definitely key to growing the women's team, and I think the new owners are keen on doing that. I'm just looking at Arsenal. I think Arsenal are the kind of benchmark, aren't they, for this, because they play at the Emirates and get some staggering attendances.
Does it mean we still get our seats though? We still get our seats.
That's what I mean. They're going to need the seats.
This is it.
Well, is that what I mean? I can go and buy 15 seats now if I want to. Anyway, that they've blagged that it's actually been mine for 100 odd years.
Arsenal women's attendances range from 2,800 to 56,000. So you can see
2,000. Yeah, but that 2,000 side of it can't be at the Emirates, can it?
Or maybe
No,
not.
they play somewhere like Boreham Wood or something, I think.
Yeah,
and the Chelsea women play down at what was Kingstonian's ground, and then they play at the Bridge.
Kings Meadow or
They
something,
play
is
two
it?
different.
Yeah, but you can see where the variation is. So
Kings
there's a lot
Meadow,
of work.
that's the one.
What I do find very funny though is that the one stand that probably everyone will be happy to see knocked down, the Park End, will definitely be the only stand that stays up. So I do quite like the irony in that because it'll annoy a lot of people. There you go. I love the Park End, and you know this.
You'll be able to get a golden spot in the car park and the Park End now, I think. Well, maybe you won't actually, given the amount of fans that we hope are going to be going to the games. But it's interesting what you put there with those WSL. Am I right in saying that every home game for Arsenal was at the Emirates?
I'm not sure.
I'm all for it because they seem to have, or they do have the weekends where everybody plays at the men's, the big stadiums, which I'm all for. I'd have the ladies teams in every club that have got one to play at their genuine home ground as often as possible. I don't know how feasible that is when people bang on about how good a condition your pitch is in these days. It should be, shouldn't it? If you're playing a game there every single weekend, which you would be, when obviously we'd be away, you play at Goodison for the women's team, then that shouldn't be an issue at all. So I'd like to see Everton be at the forefront of that if nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, we will see. We will see how this one plays out with the Toffees. Obviously, we're leading up to that final, possibly game at Goodison on Sunday. We'll have lots of stuff coming out before the game, on the day of the game, and everything. So keep it tuned in to the Blue Room. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Rog. That has been this week's Blue Monday. We'll catch you next week with possibly a slightly hungover version of Blue Monday after the Southampton game, but who knows?
Fearful one.
So keep it locked on the Blue Room this week.
Sentimental Blue Monday.
Oh, it'll be so sentimental, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. I might not even turn up. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Enjoy your week. Enjoy Sunday, and we'll catch you next time. Up the Toffees.